Hello everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at domain names and hosting. This video will be broken up into three sections: the importance of domain names and hosting in the web design industry, a deep dive into domain names, and a deep dive into hosting. Let's jump right into it. Why do we need to learn about domain names and hosting? For many of you, especially those not interested in pursuing web design as a discipline in your professional career, you may find it to be something technical that in the real world you would not come into contact with. However, this is an incorrect assumption. The reality is that you don't know where your career will take you, and even as a graphics designer or a communication designer, you never know what sort of clients you might have, especially as a freelancer. Let's say that a client asks you to design a website for them. No coding or anything like that, just the design. It's likely that as a graphics or communication designer, you would take on that project. It's just a design, something that you're comfortable with. But what happens when your client asks you about how to get a website up and running? The client expects you to know this. They are the client, they don't know our industry, so they assume that if you can design a website, you know how to host one. They don't know that being a graphics designer who can design websites might not involve the technical side of things, such as hosting and finding a suitable domain name. Not having these answers may make you look unfavorable to your client, and if you can stand out from your competition by knowing this, it will be worth it. This knowledge is not complicated to understand or grasp, so don't be intimidated. As I take you through this video, you will realize how simple it is and why it is something that you need to know. Let's look at domain names. What are they? A domain name is the URL that you type into your browser's address bar to access a website. In simple terms, it's the link. A few common examples are google.com, facebook.com, swinburne.edu.au. Domain names are made up of three parts: a top-level domain, sometimes called an extension or domain suffix, a domain name or IP address, and an optional subdomain. The combination of only the domain name and the top-level domain is known as the root domain. The root domain is our focus for the assessment task and is what we will be taking a deep dive into, so we don't need to worry about subdomains. Let's first take a look at the top-level domain. Top-level domain is the formal term for the suffix that appears at the end of a domain name. Some examples of top-level domains include .com, .net, .org, .edu. Some top-level domains are restricted for use. For example, not just anyone can go out and get a .gov top-level domain. That is reserved for government organizations or entities. An educational institution such as Swinburne uses the .edu top-level domain. Businesses these days usually have .com. However, as top-level domains evolve, you can find a series of unique and interesting top-level domains, such as .graphics or .design, which may be suitable for designers, .io, which have become popular for browser games such as Agar.io and Slither.io, .melbourne for Melbourne-based businesses, etc. Usually, domain registrar sites offer you a series of alternatives to .com, especially if your chosen domain is taken. We can also add country codes to top-level domains. I'm sure we have all seen .au at the end of the root domain, showing that it is an Australian company or service. This can be a great addition to a top-level domain, especially if your target audience are Australians who want to support Australian businesses and value Australian-made products and Australian-owned businesses. The other part of the root domain is the domain name. This is the combination of letters and/or words that users associate with your website. You expect a website's domain name to somewhat match its business name. For example, a website about dog washing should have some variation of dog and wash in the domain name so users can clearly identify what the website is about. For a brand, you would want the domain name to match the brand name. For example, Gucci, Adidas, Kohl's, Adobe, and so on. Now for the tricky part. Just because you have chosen a domain name and like how it sounds, that does not mean that it is available. There can only be one website linked with any one domain name. That means that each domain name is unique. Let's say that I want to register the domain name assassinscreed.com because I wanted to start my own creed of assassins. Unfortunately, assassinscreed.com is taken. However, not all hope is lost. I can make some modifications to my chosen domain name to find an available one. For example, I can change it to assassinscreed.melbourne. You know, since we're just starting out, for now, forming a creed of assassins in Melbourne could be a good starting point. So this domain name would suit me, and it is available. assassinscreed.us is also available, however, the creed will be based in Melbourne, so .us is not suitable. I could also change the name to assassinscreedmelbourne.com or assassinscreedmelbourne.com.au, as both of these are available and are suitable for my creed. Also, another thing to note is to be mindful of price. Some domain names are available, but due to them using very common words and being quite sought after, the prices are insane. A normally priced domain name can cost around $15 a year, give or take. However, some premium domain names, such as design.tech or design.store, can set you back $4,500 and $18,000 respectively. Thus, these are probably not suitable for the small website you're going to be working on. So the last thing to cover with domain names: how do you see what is available, which domain names are premium, and how much does your chosen domain name cost? You simply go to a domain name registrar to look it up. There are many domain name registrars out there. Some examples include Ventra IP, NetRegistry, GoDaddy, Zuva, just to name a few. The link currently on the slides has a list of registrars who are accredited to sell .au top-level domains. Once you have chosen a registrar, search for your chosen domain name and start searching until you find an available, reasonably priced domain name that matches your website. For this assignment, we want you to choose a domain name and check that it's available. If the domain name is available and reasonably priced, take a screenshot, include it in your documentation. Explain in a few sentences why you chose this domain name. An important thing to note: do not purchase a domain name purely for this project. This research is hypothetical and is included in your workbook as if you are advising a client on domain names. Now let's move on to hosting. Hopefully, you have already watched the video on how the web works and have some idea of what hosting is. However, just to quickly remind you, websites need to be hosted somewhere for people to be able to access them. The same way that you store your files on either a USB, a hard drive, or a cloud storage such as OneDrive, iCloud, Google Drive, websites are stored on servers, which are basically cloud storage tailored towards hosting websites. Just like with regular cloud storage, usually this is not free, and there are many providers and packages. For your assignment, we want you to find an affordable web hosting package. You can do an online search for affordable business web hosting. You don't need to weigh up the pros and cons of different hosts for this project. Just find one that looks good for business hosting and explain why it's good. Some of the more common justifications for good hosting include a good price, unlimited storage, multiple domain names that can be linked to your hosting, which is good for scalability if your business grows, 24/7 customer support, sometimes over the phone with Australians rather than call centers in foreign countries or live chat, servers that are hosted in the same location as you, meaning that the website should load faster for those in your region, and many other benefits that you can find in the PR on the hosting provider's own homepage. For your assignment, we want you to choose a business hosting package that is affordable, take a screenshot of the package and price, include it in your documentation, explain in a few sentences why you chose this package, including justifications for why it was a good choice. An important thing to note: do not purchase a hosting package purely for this project. This research is hypothetical and is included in your workbook, as if you are advising a client on hosting packages. And that wraps up the video. Best of luck with finding your domain names, and if you find that assassinscreedmelbourne.com.au is taken, you'll know who bought it. Thank you for watching.